Happy fall, everyone. Welcome to Still We Persist. We really tried the clap. Um, yeah, so my name's Mia. I'm one of the co-hosts for season two. And my pronouns are she and hers, and I'm the leadership liaison at the Hattie Redmond Women and Gender Center as the co-lead for the Aya position.
And I am Shaina Khan. I use she, hers pronouns. I am also with Aya. I'm their graduate assistant for this school year. Anything else we need to say to introduce ourselves right now?
Not yet. I
Yeah.
think before we dive deep into this intro episode, we just want to give a land acknowledgement. Right now, I'm in Corvallis and China's in Kentucky. So we'll give an acknowledgement from both areas, and I'll start from the Corvallis area. Every community owes existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contribute their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We're standing on the ancestral lands of the Marys River Ampnafu Band of Kalapuya people. We pay respects to their elders, past and present, and please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events, including this webcast.
Thanks, Mia. And where I am in this part of Louisville in Kentucky are the ancestral lands, is the ancestral lands of the Osage, the Eastern Band of Cherokee, the Shawnee, the Adena, and the Hopewell Nations. And similarly, I want to acknowledge that this land was forcibly taken from these nations, and many of these people still persist in Kentucky. We can't forget that their presence is still felt today. Mia, would you like to explain what Aya is in our mission statement?
Yeah, thanks, Shaina. So to kick off season two, let's just remind ourselves of Aya's main mission and what we're trying to cultivate. So what is Aya exactly? It's kind of hard to define. And I would say that Aya is us, it's we, it's you, it's me, a fern, a tree. That could be kind of a poem. But yeah, I would say that Aya's goal is really to bring together our community and support one another as we highlight each other or talk through each other's struggles. It's a space where we can feel represented, and a space hopefully that you leave feeling a little more nourished, have a little more light in your soul, a little more pep in your step. And even though we're virtual right now, we still hope to cultivate those same feelings and those same um, supportive areas of growth. And we're doing this for the women of color community here on campus so we can heal together and feed each other's needs for community, because I know that that's something very important. We'll touch on it a little more later. But that's what Aya is, and that's how I feel we represent. And if you want to know a little bit more about Aya's history and how it started, the students that started it, and what the fern means, persistence. But if you want to know more about that, definitely check out the first episode in Still We Persist season one. Tamara and Sienna give a great overview about Aya's history. So check that out if you're wanting more of that information. And back to you, Shen.
Okay, so what you're watching right now, like Mia introduced, is Still We Persist, which is Aya's webcast. So Mia just mentioned that in the previous season, the hosts had they started with an introduction for Aya, and then the subsequent episodes they talked about almost any topic you could think of that's relevant to women of color. So we'll be doing the same thing, just putting our own spin on it as the new hosts for season 2. But you can look forward to um, a variety of topics which Mia can start explaining, but some of the things you might want to sample from last season, which you can see in the links below. The previous host talked about healing justice, artivism, and messy multiraciality. So some really deep topics, and we won't talk about exactly the same things. So Mia, why don't you tell us about some of the stuff that our new viewers can look forward to?
Yeah, we hope to bring episodes of interaction where folks we highlight may even consider sharing performances or sharing their passion projects with us. Maybe it's a recipe and you just feel like you would like this community to see that, you'd like to share that with us. We really welcome that. You can definitely um, there's a link in our newsletter you can check out if you want to see a conversation happen or you want to share something with us. Definitely tap into that and share your contact with us. Definitely interested in all sorts of conversations or shares you may have. Something that we do have lined up is a certain artist and singer come in early November. Details still working out, but we hope to bring you guys just some really good, wholesome content. And there's a lot to look forward to. So definitely stay tuned. But for now, just for this introduction, we'll give you guys. So we've already talked about what Aya is and what we represent, and we have a little bit of an introduction to Still We Persist. But now we really want to give you guys a chance to get to know Shaina and I. Like, who are we, right? We're the new leads for Aya. You might have seen our faces around or not before. So yeah, we just want to take some time to introduce y'all to us. So Shaina, can you tell the viewers and me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sounds good. It's very unlikely that you've seen my face around campus because I'm new to OSU this year and I haven't actually moved out there. Um, but I am a first year PhD in women, gender, and sexuality studies over at OSU. I previously studied at the University of Louisville, which is where I'm still hanging out right now. I always have a hard time with tell us a little bit about yourself sort of questions. So I thought since Aya talks a lot about different identities, I would list a few parts of like what I consider to be my identity. So first, like as a grad student, I've spent some time teaching, and before then, I taught a little bit informally and like at elementary and or at middle and high schools. So I would say like that's a huge part of my identity. Like it's really important to me to be able to teach and engage with students, like not just to impart information, but to have conversations. I'm also like very much a small town Kentuckian. I grew up in a few different parts of Kentucky, and I always think like wherever I go, I'll probably end up coming back here. I previously studied engineering and worked as an engineer, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. And I know like engineer is a job or a career, but I consider that a part of my identity because it was so formative in my early education and kind of the way I approach problem solving and things like that. Finally, like a lot of us, I am very close to my family. I spent all of quarantine with my brother, and it's been really nice to hang out with somebody that I'm so close to. So hopefully that was at least a little bit informative about me. Mia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Shaina. Yeah, it's been great getting to know you so far, and definitely those different perspectives have come into the conversations we've had already, which is exciting. Definitely appreciate you. Okay, so a little bit about me. Yeah, it's a little bit, um, not really sure what to talk about yet. Let me think. I guess I'll just start with my major and maybe that'll get the ball rolling. But I study environmental science and minoring in ethnic studies here at OSU, Oregon State University. And this is my third year working for diversity and cultural engagement. My first year, which was my sophomore year, I worked as a student success peer facilitator for AYA. So I've been a part of the AYA team previously as well. And then last year, I worked at the Native American Longhouse, which was really enjoyable, and I learned a lot there. And so this year, it's kind of like coming back full circle, and I'm the AYA leadership liaison, which is really awesome. It's a neat opportunity to get the chance to lead the team that I started on. Um, I've also had some research experience. So for my STEM folks out there, feel free to reach out if you have questions about that. But I've done projects on methane emissions in Alaska, projects on whale foraging ecology, and some urchin ecology in Southern Oregon on the coast, and a project on atmospheric heavy metal pollution in Corvallis. So those are some things I have been a part of previously, not currently, but if you have any questions about the research process, I'd be a good contact. I've also been a part of the LSAMP family here on campus, and that has been a really great community to be a part of. Also been in various dance groups. I really love to dance. It's just something I like to do. Honestly, I just sometimes I go to the parking garage and we'll just have fun dancing by myself, and that's the best thing. But last year I did also have some great chances to perform um, with this all women of color dancing group, 3D Damn Diverse Dance. That was really special. And I guess right now, my passions mainly have been going outdoors and just really honestly just sitting in the sun and absorbing that and doing nothing else and just embracing the silence. Like that to me is a great time. So I really love being outside, and I've been sprucing up my creativity by painting, as you can see in the background. I have them hung up on my walls, but it's not like I don't paint every day, but when I do paint, something I really enjoy and helps me process. And that's a little bit about me.
So I
Um,
know you're about to ask me a question, but I just wanted to say, like, so you might be able to tell, like, Mia and I have been getting to know each other. We are co-leads for Aya, like she mentioned, and I didn't know like all those projects that you've been involved in through your environmental science studies. So that is definitely something I want to talk to you about more. That sounds like really cool, like meaningful work.
oh yeah, we should definitely chat about it another time. Looking forward to it. But for now, another question we want to ask each other, or I'll ask you now, Shaina, is why is this work important to you? That way we can share why we're grounded and why we're here working for Aya with y'all.
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk a little bit more generally about. I haven't been involved in Aya that long, like I said, so I want to talk more about like as somebody who's been working in women, gender, and sexuality studies overall, why what I've been doing is important to me. I feel like I am in a position where I can not necessarily be a model. Like I wish I'd written this out because it's a little bit hard to like talk about without like sounding condescending. I hope I don't come across that way. So it's kind of a specific example when I was teaching at U of L, like in the South, there just aren't a lot of women of color in some communities, including like most of Kentucky, and especially like to see an openly queer woman of color in the classroom was really unusual for some of my students. And I didn't realize that until they started telling me, like, you're the first queer woman of color I have talked to besides myself. Like I thought I was the only one. And that kind of blew my mind because it's never been hard for me to be open about who I am in any way, really. So I didn't realize that I could be such a like a source of support for so many folks who aren't able to be as open. And it doesn't just have to be about queerness, like just understanding what it's like to be a woman of color in academia, in towns that are predominantly white, and your classmates don't really understand what it's like to be you. So I think it's that kind of that privilege I have in being able to support others who aren't coming from the same place I am, but might have similar experiences. That's why I want to keep doing what I'm doing.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. Um, I really like how you want to share that same sense of support that you felt, um, and just share that with the community. And I think that that's really the reason for me why the work is important also, is that this work to support our community that we're a part of is important because it's a part of like our own survival and mental stability and feeling of representation and feeling of welcomeness, or that I belong somewhere. Um, I've been fortunate enough to have family and community support throughout my life. And there's been rough patches, of course, where I feel lonely or unsupported in some way because of a conflict that happened. And especially like moving here from California, right? It's just completely different scene, different in a way where I didn't see someone like me every day who looked like me. So times did get hard. Um, but something that always kept me connected to my love and my joy were the communities I'm a part of, at OSU, which included this center, the Hattie Redmond Women and Gender Center, which includes that all women of color dance group I talked about earlier, which includes the Native American Longhouse, because, and all, all of DCE and all of the places have really shown me what community is, and was able to like give me that sense of security and warmth and belonging. And so I just really hope that, or I want to do this work so we can share that feeling with, others. How you had said, um, I mean, just this feeling of belonging, that's part of our hierarchy of needs. It's a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and so it's definitely like will influence how you go about. And I think, um, having a community to belong to, feeling like feeling supported, is definitely a part of the process of becoming or coming to your fuller self. So like self actualization or something like that. And so I really like recognize how important community is. And I don't think that's something that I always saw, but definitely like now that I'm older, I can see how important the support, the love that I've felt from other people, family or not, or OSU family, has been like so important to my growth as an individual. Um, well, I would just hope to provide the same space for people to grow together like that. And it's a little bit hard now because it's virtual, we're on a virtual platform, but I hope at least these conversations can help, help you feel connected in some way. And I'm really just sending that love out. I mean, that's why I do the work, because I want y'all to feel that. And like, if I could give a hug, I would. It's a virtual hug. But yeah, that, I guess that's why the work is important to me.
So, how'd you end up at Aya specifically?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Um, so Honestly, I was coming to the end of my first year in college and I needed a job, right? So when I thought about applying to a job, immediately I thought of diversity and cultural engagement. And the name of that department just sounds like what I want to be a part of. But it was more than that. See, like throughout my first year, I had gone to many of the cultural centers events and had gotten to talk to some people, not closely. I was kind of like still figuring it out in my first year, but I definitely got the chance to like go to the Centro's Bienvenidos event, and I went to the NAL's Indigenous Peoples Day, different things like that that showed me like the different communities on campus, and um, they showed me like the social justice work or conversations being done on campus, and that really like inspired me or intrigued me at least, or I was curious more about like those conversations and those topics because that's not something like those aren't things or normal conversations I'd have with my family or in high school or anything. So like come in my first year of college and seeing that was all possible and I could be a part of that really like drew me in. Besides just needing a job, like it drew me in to apply specifically under DCE, diversity and cultural engagement, because I saw like the potential for community and the potential to grow in having these like more difficult conversations. So yeah, I was drawn to DCE, and then I think I applied for a few of the different cultural centers. But when I walked in for my interview at the Hattie Redmond Women and Gender Center, and that was actually the first time I had been to the center was for my interview, which surprised me, but that's what happened. So I walked in for my interview, and I don't want to romanticize this, but really, like, I fell in love with the center, like the physical center. If you guys never been there, it's like this beautiful blue house, and it's like cozy inside. It's got the best couches, I think. They're really nice, and there's like coffee brewing or tea brewing in the background. There's this little like library nook that's nice to like escape to, and there's just like mellow music playing from the TV, and the people are like conversational, and you could tell they're really like enjoying their time there. And I was just like, wow, I really want to be a part of this. Actually, like, I really want to be a part of this. So the interview went well, thank goodness. And, I was hired on for the Aya team, and that was my sophomore year. So, yeah. And I got to work with such beautiful people. And I feel like they really, that team and the whole Hattie Redmond Women and Gender Center team, they have really helped me grow as a person. And so naturally, I'd want to stick with diversity and culture engagement and stick with my work at Aya now. Like I'm coming back to it. It just feels really good to have like completed, not yet, but have like completed that circle, continued the spiral. I guess I could say that. Yeah, so that's my pathway to Aya. That's how she found me, I suppose. And how about you, Shaina? How did you end up at Aya?
So we kind of talked about this before, you and I, Mia, and I always want to say I don't have a good answer to this question because as a graduate teaching assistant, I was assigned like part of my work is for Aya, so I didn't get to choose to work here. But you reminded me that I do have like a somewhat interesting story of like circuitously how I got to Aya. So I can talk a little bit more about that. Um, so I did say earlier that I studied engineering. I should have realized I didn't want to get a job in engineering because I continued to do a master's instead of like actually finding a job. But eventually I did work as an environmental engineer for the Kentucky Department for Environmental Protection for a few years. And I switched jobs a couple of times in there, within that department. And eventually I got to a section where I was the only woman and the only person of color, which is not really the fault of anyone in my section. I loved all the people I was working with, but that's where I started to see all this that I had, like, everything I'd been reading about, like, in exclusion, and why lack of diversity is a problem, and how intersections of identities can put you in even more difficult situations. I started to see that playing out in my work, and I knew, like, as much as I liked the people that I was working with, I wanted to do something that felt more like I was making a difference. And I knew I'd always enjoyed teaching, so I thought, let me go to grad school and get a PhD. What should I study? Um, Turns out the things that I'd been thinking about all this time, you can actually get a PhD in. So I started with a master's at the University of Louisville, and that's where I honed my interest in queer studies. So when I was applying to a PhD program, I started looking for programs that had a strong queer studies component. And some of you might know that OSU does have its own minor in queer studies, which you can't get a lot of places. So I ended up here at Oregon State. I am TAing, like, assisting a professor for half the time, and the other half of my assistantship is working here in the Women and Gender Center as one of the co-leads for the IA team. So hopefully that answers the question in at least a somewhat interesting way, even if I didn't get to talk about why I would have chosen to work here like Mia did. But it's something that I want to keep doing if I had the opportunity. So I think that probably is enough for, like, introducing our work and how we got here. So maybe let's do, like, kind of a fun question. So Mia, I was thinking, what is one way that you've surprised yourself this week? And since it's only, like, we're recording on a Tuesday, so if you want to include last week, how have you surprised yourself recently?
Ooh. It's kind of a big question. Um, I'm gonna just be okay with silence and think about it for a second.
If you want, I can answer first. I
Okay,
actually haven't
yeah,
said
if you have an
it
answer, go for
myself.
it.
Okay. So Mia and I just coincidentally are taking the same course together with Coley Driscoll. It is Queer and Trans People of Color Arts and Activism. Is that the title of the
I
course?
think you got
Okay.
it, yeah.
So I wouldn't consider myself an artist just because it's not a skill that I have, like, formally had any training in. So I was nervous about, like, how is my work for this course going to turn out. But I am surprising myself with the excitement I have to do projects that I wouldn't have considered if I didn't have prompting from this course. So I guess the way I've surprised myself is starting to think more like an artist than I would have expected myself to.
And that's definitely true because already with your ideas for the final project, I've seen you be really creative already. So I really excited for what you decide to do with that.
I'll keep you all posted. I might show you the end product.
Yes, please. Yeah, now that I had a little bit of time to think, I guess one way I surprised myself this week um was actually one of these I think like in the middle of last week, I woke up at like 5 a.m. and I didn't really feel tired anymore, but I was like, what am I gonna do? It's like 5 a.m. So I was on my phone and I just started researching about mole, like the different types of mole. It's from Oaxaca originally, and just like the different spices that go into mole. And then I started looking at different chile peppers and, where they come from too. It was just really interesting and it helped me learn more about my own culture. Um, so today, actually, I'm making mole, and it's been like I'm making the chicken stock even from scratch, and it's been on the stove for like the past 3 hours. And then short, like after this, I'll start making the sauce part. Yeah, so that's been something from my week that I've kind of surprised myself in, that I like took the initiative to learn the recipe and I'm actually doing it today. So that feels really good. But yeah, that's just something from the week.
That's so cool. Like I always just feel better in general when I feel like I connected with my culture. And what better way than food, right? Like food just has a way of like making me feel good too. So it's really cool, Mia, that you can like actually create something that is that's like such an important part of who you are. Um, any other questions that we have for each other, or any more intro to go through?
Um, I think we're wrapping up. So if you want to shout out any events that we got going on.
Yeah, okay. So a good way to find out what we're doing would be to follow our socials, which Mia can tell you a little bit more about. Or maybe I will tell you a little bit more about that since I'm already talking about events. So Aya has its own socials. You can find us on Instagram. We have a Facebook, right? Yeah, okay. And in addition, we are part of the Hattie Redmond Women and Gender Center, like Mia mentioned. So you can also follow them, that entity, on all the socials and get some more events too. So things to look out for from the center in general. We will have a welcome event that you can get the details for, but please keep an eye out. We would love to meet folks who are interested in the Women and Gender Center. You don't have to be like officially affiliated with any major or like any center or anything like that in the university. Just if you're interested in getting to know us, keep an eye out for our welcome event. And then Aya has a Women of Color discussion group that one of our team members will be leading with Shazneen Daruwala. She is a CAPS person, right? Yeah, so that is every Thursday. And by the time you see this, this will have started already. So every Thursday from 1 to 2 p.m. And check out our Instagram for the link to join our Women of Color discussion group. And that is, oh, right, our newsletter. So we have Aya puts out a newsletter every week. It is called Woke Wednesdays, which might indicate to you it comes out every Wednesday. So if you want to get the link to that, please contact us. We can also send you the previous issues if you want to see what's been going on. But our newsletter so far, the first one was an introduction to the team. And then after that, every week we'll have an interview with a woman of color who is doing something on campus that means a lot to her. So please keep an eye out for those. And Mia, we have a lot of people to thank. Do you remember who we need to include?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Well, thanks to the Aya team for all of that great work so far. Yeah, it's great that we're getting the discussion groups rolling out. But then also a big thank you to KBVR for getting this webcast out to you guys through YouTube, and providing subtitles. That work is really important, and we wouldn't be able to do that or to do this without them. So big thank you to them. Thank you to Emma too from the Women and Gender Center. They provided the awesome graphic that you guys may have seen for Still We Persist. Yeah, so good work for that. And then just a general thank you for the DCE family. Yeah, really appreciative that we're able to do this work, and that team definitely supports us throughout the way and makes this whole thing possible. So yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm
you can
just
check
gonna
them out.
say,
Sorry,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
for it. No, go
I
ahead.
just want to say you can also check them out on social media. They have a strong presence too.
Yeah, so I think we'll just wrap up now and say, like, subscribe, share the video, do that thing so we can get these messages out to people. And we're excited for our next episode, be happening next Friday also. So be sure to tune in again. And yeah, thank you all for tuning in. I'm glad you guys got to learn a bit about Shaina and I, and we're really excited to kick off this new season of Still We Persist. So yeah, have a lovely week. Bye.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.